you seem to be going up or going down. The purposes of Yah is what determines the direction. Hi, this is Barry Phillips with 10-minute Torah, day number 4 of the Torah portion of Vayishev. Let's go to Bereshit, or Genesis, chapter 38, verse 1, and then we'll read chapter 39, verse 1. Chapter 38 says this, "And at that time it came to be that Yehudah left his brothers and turned aside to a man, an Adulamite, whose name was Hira." Chapter 39. "And Joseph had been taken down to Mitzrayim, and Potiphar, an officer of Pharaoh, captain of the guard, a Mitzrayim, bought him from the Ishmaelites who had taken him down there." So the two brothers that form the two major lines of Hebrew history, even to this day, have a comparative path of both going down. In chapter 38 and verse 1, it says that Yehudah left his brothers and turned aside. That's the scripture's translation. Another translation says he went down. The Hebrew word here is yarad, and it means he went down. He chose to go down. He himself, he went down. When we read the text in chapter 39 and verse 1, it says that Joseph had been taken down. Now, there's a little bit, it's the same word at its root, yarad, but it's a different verb form. Now, I'm not real good on Hebrew verb forms yet. This is something that I really need to dig into a little further. But the Hebrew verb form here is hofal, or hofal, and the verb tense and form says not that he went down, but that he was caused to go down. And that's the difference. Yehudah chose, he went down. Joseph, he was caused to go down. Someone else took him there. The choice was out of his hand. It was placed into the hands of someone else. The end result is that both men go down. Now, they go down in topography, that is, they descended because of a natural decline in the topography of things. But there is also a personal, relational, and spiritual decline, at least as it appears on the surface. I also find it interesting that both men are joined to someone else that seems to be the major influence upon them. For Yehudah, in chapter 38, he goes down and he joins himself with one called Hira, an Adulamite. Adullah means for the people, or justice for the people. So he seems to be one, at least by his ethnic understanding, one who cries out for the justice of the people. What's interesting is, by contrast, his name Hira means noble family. Now, nobility are not necessarily those who have historically pled the cause of the common man. They have been more about the promotion of the aristocracy or the nobility, the royalty of a certain place. But here we have then those who have noble status calling for the justice of the people. It kind of reminds me of the current Middle East situation, where there are the Arabic peoples who have affluence with their oil money, and have gained respect among the nations as someone to be dealt with, who are pleading the cause of justice for those that they view to be trampled upon, or at least have a political advantage to gain by doing, and that is to plead the cause of those called the Palestinians, who are in fact Arabs. Palestinians being a misnomer there. More on that some other time. And so why would Yehuda go and join himself with, in our common day application here, the Arab nations who are pleading the cause of the so-called Palestinians? When you leave off family, when you walk away from your covenant identity, then you may find yourself in league with those that are not necessarily promoting your best cause. Staying true to the word, staying true to the kingdom, staying true to the Messiah, staying true to what is correct and true and right is vital for us. Once we leave off any of this, we put ourselves in a compromised predicament. Now, it's understandable that Yehuda is looking at his father, who is depressed. His favored son is rumored to be dead. He's got his blood-stained special coat in his hands. This grieving, weeping, despondent, depressed father who cannot be comforted, will not be consoled, all because of a plan concocted by Yehuda, or at least he was complicit to some degree, may have been more than he could bear. And his brothers looking at him said, it was your idea. Maybe he was not, as we discussed the other day, he was not the one who pulled him out of the pit and actually sold him to the Ishmaelites, but he was complicit in the idea, let's put him in the pit. And if it hadn't been for Reuben, he'd be dead. So they're all blaming one another, and it's probably more than he wanted to deal with. I get it. Relational issues at times wants to drive us from the very place that we need to be. By comparison, Joseph is taken down. The reality is, if Joseph had not been taken down, he would have never went down voluntarily. As much as he becomes the hero of the story, Joseph was required by the purposes and plans of Yah to be taken to a place where he could learn humility. Now, he has gifting, he has calling, he doesn't have humility in a lot of ways. And he is joined to one Potiphar, who will recognize his qualities and his abilities and promote him. And that is a good thing. But he is learning to serve under authority, not because of his title or his pedigree, not because of who his father is, but because his gifts and callings he has to recognize are for the benefit of others and not for the promotion of himself. In the book of Kefa, 1 Peter chapter 5, we read how it says in verse 6, "Humble yourselves then under the mighty hand of Elohim, so that he exalts you in due time." There is a season for promotion. There is a time where Yah wants to elevate us, but it requires an act of humility on our part before him. Yeshua said it this way in Matthew 21:44, "And he who falls on this stone," speaking of himself, "shall be broken, but on whomever it falls, he shall be pulverized." Now, do you want to voluntarily submit yourself with humility to be broken? Or do you want to be taken down by force? One end result is a lot more severe than the first. In the book of Romans, chapter number 8, verse number 10 says, "And if Messiah is in you, the body is truly dead on account of sin, but the spirit is life on account of righteousness." By comparison, verse 13 says, "For if you live according to the flesh, you're going to die. But if by the Spirit you put to death the deeds of the body, you shall live." Your choice. It's our choice. Or are we going to voluntarily go down? It may be in less than desirable circumstances. No one wants to go down at all. But do you want to be forced, one way or the other? To go up is to go down first. and pray for a big bounce. May you bounce high today, and we'll see you again tomorrow. To this, shalom.